Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth-running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the topic of my last episode, and if you missed it and would like to listen in, you could find links on my YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. And if you'd like to receive notifications on when our podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. Now let's learn a little bit about my guest today. Shay Wheat is a certified event producer and creator of popular programs such as the Powerful Event Process, the Ultimate Event Planner Certification Program, and CEO of Grace and Ease Productions. So Shay, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I know a lot of people are probably wondering about hosting events and all of that, and I know it's going to be an interesting conversation. But before we get into talking about that, I would love for you just to tell me a little bit more about yourself and how did you become an event planner?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I kind of like to say I fell into it, so to speak. So I was actually speaking on somebody else's stage. It was a multi-speaker event at the beginning of the year. So it was like new year, new you. And I was speaking about appreciation marketing. And so with that multi-speaker, you're trading microphones back and forth. And so I went over to the guy that was going to give me his microphone so then I could go up after the following speaker. And I'm like, hey, dude, don't go spitting on my mic. It's like, oh my God, you're funny. Who are you? And come to find out, he was the head of education for Dr. Oz's nonprofit. And I was like, oh, wow. I met his sister Saval at Maria Shriver's women's conference when she was the first lady of California. And he went, wait, hold on. She's best friends with our CEO and we're doing a women's conference. You should help us. And I went,
nice.
Okay. And so I was in charge of over 70 speakers and over 100 volunteers as my first role as an associate producer. And then from there,
that's a big event. For the first time. Yeah, that's a lot going on.
It's a lot.
So I know, well, exactly. And I mean, there's so much that goes into hosting events and, there's big, small webinar, all different kind of things that can happen. I know we're going to talk about a lot of the different ones that can be held by business owners, but some people might even be thinking, after COVID and everything, do people really want to come back together again and come to a big event? Do you think that's an issue now? Or are you seeing people are excited because yay, we can finally get back together again?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So because of COVID, everybody obviously switched to virtual. And so we were in virtual for a number of years. And now that everything is open back up again, people are actually really excited to be in person again. So what I see event hosts running into is, do I do an in-person? Do I do a virtual? Do I do a hybrid? Do I do, maybe one of each and, kind of get rid of the hybrid? Those are the questions that I really start hearing in the marketplace right now. And I think it comes down to, who is your audience? Where are they? So for example, I've got a client who's from Ireland and she's got clients overseas from us here in the States, as well as here in the States. And so for her, it made sense to do a virtual live event where we're in studio and she can see all the hundreds of people and she can interact with them and engage with them in chat and pull them up and just have that virtual conversation, but live. Versus I've got a client of mine who supports doctors and he's got a mastermind group and he has all of his people show up in person, but this is a lot more intimate, right? So he probably has 20 some odd people that show up and they kind of go from city to city. So they meet up 4 times a year and go to different doctors' offices that are like hosting them for the year. So it kind of depends on the type of event, what it is that you're wanting to do, what's the look and feel of it, and what is the intention of the event.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's going to make an impact on like what type of event you should have too, based on how long you've been in business, I would think too. Like if you're just launching, you probably can't put on a big, huge event versus, maybe you could do a Zoom meeting or things like that too. And I know we're going to talk about all the different types that you can have, but what is your feeling on that in terms of new business, long-term business, what type of events maybe to consider?
Yeah. So it really kind of comes down to what phase of business you're in right now, what level of business, and that's going to determine what phase of event leverage you should be utilizing. So there's a number of different types of events that you can use in your business. And based on where you're at, you're going to use different types of events for different times in your business. So if you're somebody who's just starting out and you don't have clients, or maybe you have less than 10 clients, my recommendation, you're in phase 1, you're not doing any events. Your job is to find clients, get proof of concept, get them crazy awesome results, and rinse and repeat, right? Now, once you have like those 10 paying clients, you're like, okay, it makes sense. There's a need in the marketplace and I can get them crazy awesome results. Then we move into phase 2 where it's like, okay, gaining visibility. What am I going to be doing? Like, what are the free platforms? Because you don't have a ton of cash already coming in. So I don't want you doing a massive 3-day event when, you're still just trying to like figure out the visibility piece of your business, right? So I'm going to say do free platforms, do your Facebook Lives, do your Instagrams, do your Clubhouse, that sort of thing. And then as you progress through, you're going to do different events at different times.
And I know the topic, that we are titling this is, the 17 ways to gain leads. And obviously you've talked about social media, we've talked about virtual hybrid, and I'm sure there's kind of a combo of all of those. But I would love for you just to maybe give a rundown on what those kind of 17 are. And then maybe we could take a deeper dive into a few of those, because we won't have time to discuss everything in detail. But I know people are probably thinking 17 different ways. I need to hear this.
Right. Okay. So grab your pen and paper. What we're going to do is we're going to fly through these. And then, like you said, we can go into any of them you want. So you can do a 90-minute workshop. This could be a masterclass or a webinar, something that's 90 minutes long and it's virtual. You can do a summit, and those can be a number of different ways to do a summit. You can do retreats. You can do masterminds. You can do a 1-day sales and enrollment event where you're making an offer to join you in your program or your services. You can do a 3-day enrollment event. There's seminars, podcasts. So right here, this is an event. You can do meetups. I mentioned earlier, you can do Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives, Clubhouse rooms. You can do conferences, challenges, hackathons, conventions, and trade shows. And that's just like the 17 that I've just jotted down. There's still so many more types of events out there, but these tend to be the ones that I see most entrepreneurs utilizing, and utilizing them at different phases and different times in their business.
Yes, so social media is not just one lump sum of them all together then, because you mentioned a few as individual ones. And is that because there's different people on different platforms?
Exactly. Yeah. So one I didn't even mention would be LinkedIn events, right? So people that show up on LinkedIn are different than they show up on Instagram, right? So your audience, depending on who it is that you're looking to support, where do they hang out? If it makes sense for you to do more Facebook and LinkedIn, but not Instagram, that's because, your audience doesn't live there. So I would take that off of your potential list of how you're engaging with your audience. So you're either looking to do a couple of different things when you're hosting an event. What is the purpose and intention of the event? Is it for lead generation? Is it to grow your list? Is it to sell into one of your offers, whether it's a high ticket or a low ticket offer? Like, what is the purpose and intention of the event? And that's going to help you determine which event to use.
Mhm. One thing I'd heard years ago too was, if you want to sell like a high ticket item, you should have like a higher ticket price to come to, whether it's your 1 day event or 3 day event or whatever, because you want them to buy into that first like event you're hosting too, so they're more willing to pay, which sometimes seems counterintuitive. Like, well, if I want them to pay more, I want them to pay a little bit less to come so they have the money reserved, right? So like, what are your thoughts on that, and like how to price events in the first place?
Yeah. So if your offer from the stage is going to be a high ticket offer, and in my opinion, a high ticket offer is something that's over $8,000 or more. Okay. Now, when you're going to do that and you're offering it from the stage, you need to take a look at what is the length of the event. So you're not going to do a Facebook Live and sell into a $10,000 program. That's like going,
Mhm.
hi, nice to meet you. Let's get married, right? No,
Right.
you're going to look at utilizing more like a 3-day sales and enrollment event. You're spending more time. You're able to like get into nitty gritties. You're walking through your process. And there's actually an arc that we end up creating in the flow of the run a show that ends up setting up the offer because we know why your audience is coming in. Now, I've seen for those types of events, they will range in price points. So I have some clients that will charge $97 for a general admission, upwards to, $400, $500, $600 for a VIP for the same event. And then I have other clients that are, selling much higher price points, and they're selling a $5,000 ticket and offering a $25,000 and $50,000 program at these events, right? And that one's actually going to be 4 days. So it
Mhm.
depends on what is the intention? What are we doing? How much time do we need with each attendee to really support them in obtaining what is the promise of the event? The way I look
Mhm.
at events is regardless of the type, you always have an event promise. What do they walk away with? Regardless if they do business with you or not, what are they walking
Mhm.
away with by spending that much time, energy, and effort with you? Now, obviously, we
Mhm.
know a percentage of people are going to say yes and move into that next high level with you because they're paying for speed, they're paying for accountability, they're paying for all the things that you did wrong and messed up on and know how to fix. I'm going to pay
Mhm.
you to support me so I don't have to do it, right?
Mhm.
So
Learn from someone else. No.
exactly.
Mhm.
Like you had all the hard knocks. I'm totally fine having you enjoy those lumps while I just reap the benefits.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and while you were talking too, you mentioned like general admission and VIP, and we see that a lot in events too. And so how do you even know like what to offer just for like your basic come to the event, let alone, okay, now you're wanting to pay for a VIP, and so you're going to get this extra, whether it's swag or if it's extra bonuses, like what are those kind of things that you need to consider to offer for VIP? And again, how do you determine maybe what that price value is?
Yeah. So it's taking a look at everything as a big picture. So when we're meeting
Mhm.
with our clients looking at a 3-day sales and enrollment event, we're going, okay, one, what is the offer? What is the end, product? What are we moving people to? And based on what's entailed in that, we're going to go, okay, this is how we're going to set up the run a show. But in that, we know that people are going to, like, if you pay, you're more likely to show up, right? Especially
Mhm.
in a virtual event, you're not having to pay for hotels and pay for food and pay for flight and anything else. So I've actually seen some event hosts have you pay more to show up virtually than if you show up in person, which is kind of
Mhm.
an interesting new paradigm to kind of look at, right? Because the ones that are showing up in person, they're already investing for the flight and the hotel and the
Right.
food and to be there and out of their world for, 3 days or a week. They're
Mhm.
investing highly. Now, virtually, you're not having to invest as much, but to make sure that we still have people that are committed to showing up, that's what they're playing with, is having a higher
Mhm.
price for the virtual audience. So
Mhm.
that I think that in itself is fascinating to look at. Secondly, you're going to want
Mhm.
to take a look at who is your audience. Are they divorced moms who are dating again, wanting to date again? And, are their finances tied up over here? Or are they, 6, 7, and 8-figure business owners that are wanting to continue to scale and leverage what it is they're doing? And they've got some more cash flow to put towards this and to show up for it because they understand the ROI that's going to show up on the back end, right? How do we, as the event host and event team, make it so their investment becomes a 10x in value, a 10x in support, a 10x in whatever it is for the audience. So we're looking at a number of different factors that come into play when we're wanting to price out our ticket prices.
Right. And it seems like if you are in person, right, it might be a little bit easier to keep your audience engaged. You're maybe asking questions, having them participate, where online, we know sometimes people don't even have their cameras on, they don't want to be seen, or maybe they're multitasking, right? So maybe they're listening, but they're checking email, and so there's pros and cons to both, right? And so like, what would you say to someone who's thinking about what their potential, venue is going to be, on the pros and cons, and how to keep their audience engaged, whether they're in person or online?
Yeah. So, both can be extremely powerful. So I just had a client who had 746 tickets sold for her virtual live event that we did in studio. She ended up having, on average, over 500 people show up over 3 days, like consistently having over 500 people each day. And then she ended up having over 65 clients, earning her nearly $1 million in sales, right? So it's extremely powerful and profitable to be doing a virtual live event, as it is for in person. Now, the reason we made that one so powerful is because in the crafting of the Run a Show, we take a look at ways that are going to be engaging for the audience. We know that stuff happens. We know that stuff comes up. We know that, the dogs are running around and the kids need this, and you've got to go and do lunch and dinner with the family. We know all of that is present to their awareness for a virtual live event. So what are we doing to help support them in being there? It all comes down to how we're connecting with them before the event, how we're engaging with them before the event. Are we doing any pre-event types of events? Are we engaging with them after the event? Are we doing some type of afterglow? And then during the event itself, you're going to do some teaching. You're going to do some things where they're physically doing something. Are they either writing it down, they're workshopping it out, they're going into a breakout room based on a prompt that you just did. And then they come back as a group and we're sharing and we're pulling people in to kind of break down that third wall, so to speak. So it's not just them listening to you talking at them the whole time. They're actually a part of the experience. So we pepper those things into the event to make it so we have really, really high stay rates. It's amazing to me that we'll have people with us for 8 hours a day over 3 days. And, 90% of the people stick with us for all 3 days. It's because we do those things, those engagement pieces.
Right. Well, and people who are listening are, again, we're like the small business entrepreneur. And so maybe some of them have never even hosted an event yet. They're interested in doing that, but they aren't sure how to actually get tickets sold, because since they haven't had an event in the past, maybe they don't have testimonials, or they don't have, something they can share as like outcomes that have been received, by those attendees. So how would they go about actually selling the tickets to fill the room, or, the Zoom meeting, so that they have a successful event?
Yeah. So when you are looking at hosting your event, we do everything based on the numbers, right? So let's say we're going to host a masterclass, a 90-minute masterclass. Anybody can do this, right? You're going to want to take a look at what are we selling into? If you're doing a 90-minute masterclass, my suggestion is you sell into a strategy session where you can be one-on-one with somebody that's interested in your products and services. Okay. From there, we're going, okay, what is the goal? If our goal is to, have 10 strategy sessions, what does that mean? Well, we do this through breaking down the numbers. And when you break down the numbers, you'll figure out, okay, that means we need to have, let's just say 60 people, 50, 60 people in the room for your masterclass in order to have 10 people say, yes, I want a strategy session, right? Okay, great. Now we have the number. How in the world do we fill the room? So that's where our ticket map comes in. And the ticket map is all the ways that all the opportunities, all the ticket sources that we plan on engaging with our ideal audience out in the world. So we list out, are we inviting our current or our past clients? Does that make sense? Maybe you're offering into a next level that they're not a part of yet. You've got your email list, you can be a sponsor at somebody else's event in order to gain leads and sell tickets into your masterclass or offer a ticket to your free masterclass. Referrals, you can do speaking gigs where you're on other people's stages, making an offer into your free masterclass. You can do joint venture partnership calls or Facebook lives on other friends' pages. I don't know if you've ever done that before or the audience has, but it's like, okay, let's say, so somebody that's a joint venture, really good partner for me is an AV company, right? They have the same audience that I have. So if we were to do like a Facebook swap, I'm on their Facebook Live, they're on my Facebook Live. We're supporting the same audience, but we do different things. So we're not competing, right? If you go out and you want to do in-person networking, it's another way to invite people to your masterclass. So it's like, what are all the ways that you would want to do this? Are you doing your Instagrams, your Facebook Lives, your LinkedIn events? It's like all those different types of events, clubhouse rooms, in order to go, hey, I'm doing a masterclass, come and join me, where they then opt in to, get all the information and the details for that. And when we fill out the ticket map, it's like the spreadsheet that we have. We're going, okay, how many people were at that speaking engagement? Let's say, we had 30 people at the speaking engagement. We know we'll have between a 10 and 30% conversion rate for them to opt in. So let's just say 20%. We know we'll have 6 people say, yes, I want to come to your masterclass. And so that's how we do it, is we map it out. We list out all the ways that you plan on filling the room, how many people we expect to be in each room, what's the conversion rate, and that's going to give us the number of tickets per opportunity. And you add all of that up, and that's how we end up going, okay, this is how we're going to have 50 people show up. Knowing that not everybody shows up, we actually then go above that number of whatever our show up goal is. So if your goal was 50, let's say you want to register 60 or 70 people in order to have 50 actually show up to your masterclass.
Well, and how soon should someone start promoting an event before the actual event, to make sure that they're actually getting sales? And, I'm sure some people are probably thinking, well, I shouldn't do it too far in advance because then they may not want to buy because it's too far away, but yet you don't want to do it a couple weeks before, maybe, if you're going to have an in-person event, because, you need to have time to sell tickets and everything too. So like, what are those kind of guidelines maybe that you have to help someone know when to do it?
Absolutely. So when you're doing a virtual event, let's just say it's a masterclass, it's not a huge commitment. It's 90 minutes and it's virtual. You're going to want at least 10 days to really market your event, because 10 days out, they know their calendar enough to go, okay, yeah, I can fit that 90 minutes into my schedule, or even that 60-minute masterclass into my schedule, right? Versus if you're doing a 3-day event in person, you're going to need a lot more time, because like you said, they have to go and get the flight and the hotel, and they have to, maybe take care of what their audience or their family is doing, right? And they have to, set up all of those details in order to show up for your event. So you're going to need a lot more time to do an in-person.
I guess when all of this is coming together, I mean, there's just so much for someone to know, especially the first time around. Like, what are some of the tips maybe that you can share for them to say, don't forget, you should focus on this. And a lot of people don't think about this and they miss it, and then it could cause a problem. What are some of those little things?
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to want to take a look at a couple of event fundamentals. So every event that you're doing, you're going to want to make sure that, one, you're looking at who is your audience and how are you doing ticket sales? Is it a free ticket? Is it a paid ticket? and how are they going to be, like, where are they located? Where are they at? The second thing you want to take a look at is your run a show. What in the world are we teaching? What is the content? Like, what are we delivering to the audience that they go, oh my God, I totally want to show up to that event? The third thing is your offer strategy. Now, this is something that I see a lot of people miss because they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to do a Facebook Live, or I'm just going to do a masterclass and give them all of this amazing content because they so need it. And then they forget to make some type of offer. Now, this offer doesn't have to be a paid offer. It can be, if you're doing a Facebook Live, and it could be as simple as, hey, if you've gone through the, 3 things out of 10, if you want the rest of the 10, go ahead and DM me and I will shoot over the rest of the 10, right? That's still making an offer. It's having them take action. So what is your call to action? Okay. The fourth thing you want to take a look at is your support team. You should not be doing this alone, honestly.
Right.
Like, Candy here, I'm sure, has a team. She's the one doing the podcast, but she's probably not the one finding all of the guests and going through and sending an email every single time for everybody who applies. Like, she's got a team that is supporting her. You deserve to have a team that's supporting you. And then the fifth thing is your budget. Now, I know you're like, well, if I'm doing a Facebook Live, I really don't have a budget. Technically, you're utilizing your time. So is this the best use of your time? What is the budget time-wise for you? And then obviously, if you're doing a masterclass or you're doing a summit and you're wanting to do something like ads, or you're doing a 3-day event and you're doing ads, or you're doing team, you want to make sure that you're looking at your budget as well, because I am not about people losing money on their events. Right. I'm looking at for them to be powerful and profitable.
There's so much to know, and which is why, like I said, whether you have a team or you're hiring a professional, such as yourself, to work with them. So if someone does realize, like, hey, I need to have some assistance, I don't even have my own team, I want to work with a professional, like, what are the things that they should look for, time requirements, cost, that type of thing?
Yeah, it really kind of comes down to, it's like, what are we looking to do? And what phase of event leverage are you in right now? So if you're in phase 2, so phase 1 is you're figuring it out, you're just getting clients, you're like getting proof of concept, you're getting them crazy awesome results for your audience. Phase 2 is you're starting to have visibility, and you might have somebody that is just supporting you a little bit, like a VA. But I mean, you can do your Facebook Lives, you can do your Clubhouse rooms, you can be a guest on other people's stages. So yeah, in the beginning, it's going to be probably you doing all the heavy lifting, unless you bring on a VA that's going to help you find those webinars, those podcasts, those summits for you to be on, or those sponsor type of events for you to speak at. But that's going to make it so you're continuing to have more leads, grow your business, have more strategy calls, and thus make it to the point where you're making about $5,000 a month consistently. Then you move into phase 3, which is the grow phase. And this is really when you start to have more support, because here you are hosting your own masterclasses, your own webinars, your own summits, you're having larger speaking engagements, and you're going to have a VA that you can now pay and support you to, like, get those webinars or find you those summits, right? You might want to go ahead and have enough income now, because you're going from $5,000 a month towards that $10,000 a month kind of marker. You now have the income available for you to, let's say, consult with somebody like me. Not necessarily have me run your masterclass, but consult with me on, how do I end up having people show up? What does my ticket map need to look at? What is my webinar? What am I teaching? How do I set up the run a show properly so that they are going to say yes to my offer or my strategy session, so I can then have more conversations, right? So it's like, there's these phases that I want you to progress through. And as you're progressing through, you're bringing on more team because you have the income to support it. I don't want you doing it when you don't have the income to support it. We want your business to be self-sufficient.
Right. Well, I've had so many thoughts going through my head and more questions that I theoretically could ask, but I know we're running out of time for today's episode. So I wanted to ask if you have an offer that you would like to share. And if anyone wants to connect with you because they want to learn more, find out a little more detail about how to put on their own events, like how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a free gift for everybody. You heard me talk a little bit about the 5 phases of event leverage. And so what I have for you today is that full downloadable. So for you to kind of go through the flow chart and be like, okay, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Okay, great. I'm in phase 3. I'm in the grow phase. Look up the grow phase and it says, okay, this is where you're at. This is what you need to do. And this is how you need to continue doing these actions to move to phase 4 and to phase 5. So the way that you do that is you simply go to 5phases.info. So spelling out the word 5 phases with an s.info/candy. And you can pick up that free gift and start looking at what phase of event leverage you're in. And then, of course, I'm on all of the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, where we are constantly sharing what's working, what's not working. I do a little behind the scenes with a lot of our clients, because it's constantly changing. The foundation of events is the same. There's just little nuances that we always kind of tweak and adjust. And so I share those things on any of my social platforms, as well as you can check us out at graceandeaseproductions.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Shay, for being a guest on my show and talking about this topic. Like I said, I think we just barely scratched the surface because there's so much that can go into this. But I really appreciate your taking the time to share your expertise in this area.
Absolutely. I've had so much fun.
And I also want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in. I hope you found this topic interesting and that it answered some questions about 17 ways to gain leads now using events, which is right for you. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Shay at any of the links that she discussed or send us a message at media@abandp.com. I hope you can join me for my next interview. And remember, you can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is abandp.com. You can also find the podcast Biz Help for You on multiple podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And would you please share my show with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? I'd really appreciate your support. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.